Let me start with a small story. A story that you will tell the children in kindergarten. But why do I bring that story to this audience? Because a group of researchers took the story and conducted an experiment, and the outcome of that experiment may be significant for this audience. So in this story, there is a bear, Big Bad Bruce. And every evening he goes on top of a hill where he lives and rolls down huge boulders down this hill. And all the rabbits and the rodents, the squirrels and the birds, they run in horror and fright. And on looking at this Big Bad Bruce explodes with great belly laughs. And there was a wise old woman who lived near this hill, and she wanted to teach this bear a lesson. So she brewed a magic potion, enticed this bear, and the bear now became a small, tiny bear, no bigger than the size of a rodent. And now the tables are turned, and when he goes on the hill, all these little squirrels and the rabbits chase him to the point of exhaustion. And one evening, when he's just about to be picked by an owl, the wise old woman rescues him, takes him to her house and makes him her pet along with her little cat. And this bear now drinks milk from a saucer and plays with this cat and really feels horrible for what he's done. At this point, the story stops, and the researchers ask many groups of adults, now what should the wise old woman do with this bear? What would you say? Okay, now that he realizes what he did was horrible, let's make him into a big bear again, yes? And they asked many small groups of children across cultures, across different settings, and you know what? All the children almost communicated with their giggles and delightful spirit. Keep him small. And the message that they are perhaps telling the world is small is sacred, and they like being small. Small is who they are. And now let me go to this question in education. How do all of us view these small children? And I know, and all of us here have talked about it since morning, that this entire education system is constructed on one lie. And what is that lie? You go to a great university and get a great job, and life unfolds in front of you and the skies open up for you. And from this reductionist idea, we come to another conclusion almost, that childhood is a time of preparation for the singular task of adulthood. How absurd. And I know through the morning many alternative thinkers from different schools have presented different ideas, and I wish to bring to you some ideas from world of education, from this great Austrian philosopher, social scientist, clairvoyant Rudolf Steiner. And I cannot do justice to it in 10 minutes, so I will briefly present some ideas from world of education. In world of education, small is sacred, and in times where almost childhood is endangered, we work towards protecting and preserving the forces of childhood. And childhood and its stages are seen as most fundamental, most formative, most defining, most sacred in the stage of human development, which I'm sure all of us agree. And Steiner gives 3 indications where we look at 0 to 21 stage of childhood in 3 7-year cycles, 0, 7, 7, 14, 14, 21. And he gives 3 beautiful indications. The first of them, receive the child in reverence. Have you ever heard this word reverence, sacred or holy in education? Can you raise hands please if you've heard these words in education? Okay, in one person, and that too in the context of a convent school. Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it, coming from our culture. So when Steiner said receive the child in reverence, I'm placing a rather unusual idea, because Steiner and world of education believes that children come to us from the spiritual world. And our educational task in the kindergarten is to receive this child in reverence. And often we talk about it in the kindergarten that for our initiation we do not have to go to the Himalayas, but we can have it in our kindergarten. And in the kindergarten, we protect and preserve the forces of childhood and do not even awaken the child to any intellectual aspect, not even A, B, C or the numbers, which don't have relevance in the life of a child. And there is a beautiful quote from a poet that I love, Thoreau, which mirrors exactly what Steiner has to say about this early childhood. I'm struck by the fact that the more slowly trees grow at first, the sounder they are at the core, and I think that the same is true of human beings. We do not wish to see children precocious, making great strides in their early years like sprouts, producing soft and perishable timber. But better if they expand slowly at first as if contending difficulties and so are solidified and perfected. Such trees continue to expand with nearly equal rapidity to an extreme old age. And this is the premise of the world of kindergarten, that you keep them so that they could become the kind of strong trees that we want, where learning can happen until extreme old age. Now the child becomes 7 years, and in our tradition 7 is very important developmental stage, the first dentition. And after that, the child is ready to meet the world. And what do we do to this young child who is ready to meet the world? We give them lifeless, dry, cut up facts in the name of concepts, in the name of formulas, in the name of theory. And this does not meet the life of the child, does not meet the soul needs of the child. Recently, we had a teacher from another school who was visiting our primary years and went to grade 3, and she said, I saw something unusual in the class, and the teacher was teaching. She put up a lot of words on the board. She had words like bat, and bat has 2 different meanings, the bat that flies and bat and ball, and lie. You could tell a lie or you could lie down. So there were words like this. And the teacher asked the children, so children, these words, they have the same name, the same pronunciation, but they mean different things. So what shall we call them? And the children said, teacher, we can call the same words. So it was agreed in the class that these words will be called same words. And the whole week, they worked with same words. Now this teacher said, but in our school, we call them homonyms. I said, yes, but if you were teaching in Greece, and your children knew Greek, they know homonym means same name. But they do not understand homonym. Same words means them. So our children in the primary years do not learn concepts that are dry and lifeless, but they learn in rich mental images. And I leave you with this story from Einstein, which probably all of you have heard about this mental image and imagination. There was a lady whose child was an extraordinary genius in mathematics. At age 12, he was able to solve problems that only 20-year-olds could solve. And so this lady takes this young boy to Einstein and asks him, what should I do to facilitate his development? And you know the response that Einstein gave her? He said, read him fairy tales. And this is absurd almost. She wants to facilitate mathematical development, and here is Einstein who says read him fairy tales. And from this comes that famous quote from Einstein that says, if your child is intelligent, read them fairy tales. If you want the child to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. So our 7 years, 7 to 14 is really the time where education comes with love. Education is treated as art. And next comes the child turns 14, and when you will say the child turns 14, the 14-year-old will be very angry with you because they do not want to be called children. And those of us here who are high school teachers, we are so glad that we are alive and still teaching, isn't it? So what happens to this young being at 14? It's, you know, an independent, free-thinking human being is almost a phenomenon. And the birth of thinking, so they're hungry for conceptual thinking, rational thinking, abstract thinking, judgment, framework, and that is the time you feed them all of that you protected them for those almost 12 years. And this process ends at 21 with free-thinking men. And there's something else that happens to these beings at this stage, which is in the world of tradition, we joke about it and we say, sometimes you go to a restaurant and it's closed, isn't it? So these are like children this age are walking with a board here that says, closed for renovation. They're no longer sitting in the living rooms, they're locked in their bedrooms, in the classrooms, the relationship and the dynamic with the adults changes because they no longer want to accept our truth as their truth. They want to walk away from adults, from ideals, from truth of the world to find their own. And we say, when you come back, the throne is waiting for you. It's a famous biblical story that when the child who's rejected the world comes back after all of this rejection and finding his own and making his own, when you come back, the throne is waiting for you. And these are the beliefs or the constructs that world of education serves in those 21 years. Now, okay, so this is the children, and now the most important people who hold these children are the teachers. And here I want to present one idea from Steiner, which is, I think, groundbreaking. Who you are is more important than what you teach. I think today in the world of education, there's far too much significance given to curriculum, to lesson plan, to assessment, and to all the things that revolve around what you teach. But I'm sure all of us have had these aha moments in our lives, and I've had it when I was a teacher with class 5, and one child and I had this very special relationship, and one day the parent of this child came and told me something. You know, when I'm thinking deeply, I usually do this, which means I'm very, not confused, but I'm really thinking, and that's when I do this, and I'm not even aware of it. And this child, the mother said, when she's really thinking, she just does this like exactly how you do. And in that moment, I said, my goodness, because I know all of us have had these moments where the children in our fold do exactly the things that we do, because young children do not discern. They drink and swallow the adults in their life. And all the intentions we hold, the fears that we have, the hopes that we have, the beliefs we have, the said, the unsaid, everything is consumed by the children, especially up until 14, without any filtering. And then you can imagine how important it is that we look at the question of who are we. And here the premise is that the teacher is the unwritten curriculum. And what we work is really the selfhood. Who is the self that teaches the children? And I think that is of least significance in the context of education in the world today, not just in our country. And I think that should take the central place, the selfhood of the person that is teaching, because the children are actually swallowing us as people, not just what we teach. I know right to education has become the national mandate. I wish that right to childhood becomes a national pursuit, becomes a national endeavor and a preoccupation of every teacher, every school in our country. And I wish to close with something from Parker Palmer, whose seminal work I love, called Courage to Teach. And this is a preface he gives in a talk where he addresses about 500 teachers and carrying them for 10 days presenting his seminal work. And I thought it's so relevant for this group today. It's not pleasant, it's not diplomatic, it's a bit rude, and I hope we can digest that. I think we are here to seek life-giving forces and sources in the midst of an enterprise which is too often death-dealing and that is education. These profound human transaction called knowing, teaching, and learning is not about information or getting jobs. It's about healing, it's about wholeness, it's about empowerment, it's about liberation, it's about transcendence. It's about reclaiming the vitality of life. The question we must therefore wrestle with, I think, is why there is so little life-giving power in our time, in our culture, when we use the words such as learning, teaching, and education. Why are these words and the things they point to so flat, so dull, and so banal? I think it's because we have driven the sacred out of it. I want to explore together what it might mean to reclaim the sacred. I now wish to invite you to our school. You can please play the video. We are in Coimbatore. We are called Yellow Train. It's a Waldorf school, and we live in a farm celebrating childhood and unhurried childhood. So welcome to Yellow Train.